Tell us about the book again.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I sort of spoke about how I always do my own training while doing these courses and books. I write these books for my own selfish reasons to become a better chess player. It forces me to meet deadlines to get actual analysis done. And it also forces me to understand things to the point that I can confidently and competently explain them and put them into English, which is a higher level of understanding than, oh, I think I get this. So the way converting extra pawn worked was we had at Killer Chess Training a class once per week where we covered games where one side would have an extra pawn and try to hopefully convert it successfully. And we sort of broke this down into the three main elements of converting an extra pawn, which would be stabilize the position and avoid counterplay, evaluate which piece exchanges, pawn exchanges, and changes to the structure will help you convert the pawn, and then finally, what your plan for what this pawn will ultimately do for you will be. And I taught all these classes for Killer Chess Training live. I didn't prepare much for the classes. I came in with games in mind and had sort of open analysis sessions with people who would be suggesting moves. And so then we hired Jeremy to transcribe all of those classes into chess-based files so that we could turn into a book. But in the classes themselves, I didn't have an engine on. I was just trying to play and learn and
Mm.
understand these positions better. So while I'm a very good chess player and undoubtedly I did very good analysis, it was still full of mistakes, as any analysis will
Mm.
be. And so there was then a process of going back over all of the same games, challenging whatever assertions I had made during class, with this time with engines to check my work. And this helped me learn even more in terms of what parts of my understanding were correct, what parts were flawed and had to be improved, and what parts were flat out wrong. And I think this was a very valuable learning experience for me.
Well, I can say, I mean, I've been flicking through the book. There we are. That's the book, everyone. Over the past couple of weeks, and I can see how much work you've put into it. Kind of refining analysis, as you say, after
Right.
these online
So
sessions.
So
And
going back to your original question, how much
yeah,
time did I spend writing it? Like I would say probably it's something like 150 to 200 hours, but easily 80% of that time was like me doing my own training.
right.
So
Okay.
the question is, do you count that as actual writing time? So and I would say no. So to that effect, it probably took more like 20 to 25 hours of work to write the book, while the stuff that's actually inside it was just my normal training that I should be doing anyway, regardless of if I'm writing or not.
Okay. Anyway, however you count it, I can see you put a lot of hard work into it, and
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed reading through it. And I have to say, I found it really, really instructive. What I'd like to do is go through a couple of games if we've got time, and I'd
Sure.
like to test our audience as well. I like to throw them questions anyway. So the game I've picked out, which I thought was really instructive actually, and it's in some ways it's one of the simpler games in inverted commas. So your game against Munoz from Miami
Yeah.
2009, so a long time ago. But I
Hmm.
thought this was in a way such a typical end game that
Yeah.
that gives away the first question.
But
um,
also, it's also a game that's not in the database, by the way. So
as I discovered this afternoon when I
yeah, it's
when I
not in
was
database.
yeah, I couldn't find it in the database.
Yeah,
Exactly.
US tournaments often don't have all the games updated,
Yeah.
especially then.
Okay, so let's go through this game. So you were playing white. So tell us the circumstances of the game.
Yeah, so I was playing in Miami at this point. I was 2,500-ish. I had two GM norms, and I was sort of searching for the last one. I was probably a little bit stronger than 2,500 overall, but not much. And I was a really good fighter back then, but I was on my own out of high school for the first time. I had never been able to dedicate myself fully to chess until then, so my knowledge of the game was pretty lacking, and I certainly wasn't very well prepared in the opening. Like I was, I guess, 18 at the time, and I'd only been for a few months, like been able to play really seriously because I'd just been in school the whole time before. I know that's a little atypical for a top player to have been in high school, but I
Oh, by
was.
the way, let me just break in a moment. Elizabeth Shaughnessy would not forgive me if I didn't mention the Berkeley Chess School. I think
Yeah.
I'd be toast. So you, yeah, you played a lot of junior chess at the Berkeley Chess School.
Yeah, that's where I first was, where I first grew up. The Berkeley Chess School's absolutely fantastic. My life would be so different without them. So they filled a very important void in the Bay Area, which was sort of, um, I guess, what was available to make kids fall in love with chess. The Berkeley Chess School does not turn people into grandmasters. That's not their MO. Their MO is we introduce kids to chess and make them fall in love with the game. There wasn't a great infrastructure for training to like get people really strong in California at the Berkeley Chess School or anywhere else, but they're the ones who absolutely fostered my early development. They've been incredibly supportive of me throughout my entire career.
Fantastic. There you go. I'm very glad we got that in. Excellent.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get to the first question in a second, but we can see it's a pretty typical, I don't know what you call it, a Bern variation, the Rubinstein variation of the French. So here's the first question for everyone. White to play. What would you do next? So there will always be a little bit of a delay. We've got someone watching from Kazakhstan. That's
Okay.
I'd say you're a bit further away than Kazakhstan, but
Oh, from the UK?
no, it's people all over the world.
Right, but you're saying I'm further away from who's further away from you mean?
Yeah, if you're on the West Coast, I'd say you're further
Probably
away.
pretty comparable. Like London to San Francisco is like an 11-hour flight nonstop. It's probably a
Kazakh-
bit more though, like just time zone wise. Like,
Kazakhstan, nah, it's closer.
yeah,
Kazakhstan's
we're eight
closer.
time zones away. Kazakhstan, I think, is fewer than eight away.
Yeah, no, I think you're still. We got somebody else in California as well, but
Okay.
I think you still have gold medal. You're still in first place as far as. Sometimes we have a guy from Paraguay.
Yeah, that would be further for sure.
Yeah, which should be further. I don't know. Anyway, we've got. Yes, excellent. Well done, Aksu96 and James Miller 1209, who both saw that there's a little tactic on the board. And there we go. And just a reminder, everyone, the name of the book is Converting an Extra Pawn in Chess. So there we go. You've got your extra pawn. So good start. However, it's not so clear, this position, is it?
No, I'm not even sure why it's that much better, if at all. But I think Black's next move was definitely a misunderstanding of the position. And the rating difference between us wasn't that big, but I definitely think he sort of got the sense I was a much stronger player, and I think he was trying to, was sort of approaching me as such and trying to hold solid. But I think if Black just plays for compensation here, he's not in such bad shape.
Yeah. E5, bishop b7, or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Like, he took on d4 though, which clearly is advertising that this is not a guy looking for counterplay. Like if he wanted to go bishop b7 and play with the bishops or play e5 and bishop e6, he could have done that. But bishop takes d4 is clearly the move of a man trying to simplify the position and hope for the drawish nature of opposite colored bishops to sort of become relevant.
yeah, fine. So here's the next question. So how are you going to recapture here? We've got Alpetification is in Putney, which is about 4 or 5 miles away from me. He's claiming the nearest. Anyway, white to play.
I used to play some game on my phone where you had to guess a country based on how far away it is from. I think it's called Global, but based on how far away it is from the last country you guessed. And so I figured out that I think the furthest country from the U.S. is probably Comoros, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, that sounds possible. Yeah.
Okay. So, just a little side bit.
Okay, we've got Evan Ripper who says, what about bringing a rook first before recapturing?
You got to be careful because Black can play e5.
Yeah. Let's just show that one.
Yeah, e5, and then okay, c3 and bishop g4, and this is getting much messier than I want. Or also even a5 is an idea to play bishop a6. Like there's
That's
all
true.
sorts of
Yeah. Okay.
there's all sorts of things I don't want to allow here.
This is very true. So we've got to take back the bishop straight away, folks. I think it's basically they're all avoiding the question.
Yeah.
Bishop or
No, it's a
queen.
really important question. Do we trade the queens or not?
James Miller says a wimpy queen takes d4 and grind the endgame.
Well, I don't care about wimpy or non-wimpy. I care about winning games. I mean, if a wimpy move is the best move, you play it. Like
Well
here,
said.
this is, and you have to sort of evaluate in this position, is it better to have queens on the board or off the board?
Okay, so you took on d4 with the queen. Explain.
Yeah.
I mean, given the
So there's
a
a few
certain
things that I
reputation
would
with opposite
go
colored
into
bishops,
this
explain why this
decision.
is appealed to
So
you.
the first one is concrete, which is that if we play bishop takes d4, I think bishop a6 is pretty close to equalizing directly. Because after queen takes d4, black wins a tempo on the b2 pawn. And if I defend it or whatever, like let's say if c3, there's always queen d2. But long story short is black is going to take over the open file. For example, rook a b1, rook f d8. It's going to be very, very awkward to ever make progress here with black controlling the open file. So the first thing was just concrete, that I didn't like this change to the position, that black was getting more active. And that sort of goes into this concept of stabilize the position and avoid counterplay. But when evaluating which exchanges to make, I actually think the queens coming off the board should be in white's favor. So we have to ultimately think, what is our extra pawn going to do for us? And the first thing I'll point out is that in opposite colored bishop positions, it's extremely rare. Like if you have a sort of symmetrical structure like this one where you have an extra pawn on one side, it's extremely rare that the best strategy is like go make a passed pawn. What you want to do is use your pawn mass to restrict your opponent's bishop to the extent that you can and eventually make a weakness. And when I was thinking about this, what I would ultimately come up with is I would like to set up with my pawns on a4, b5, and c4. And once I'm there, I would like to eventually try to play either c5 or a5 to make a pawn weakness on black's queen side. And if we're thinking about how best to accomplish this, I think it's going to be very important to fight for the c5 and a5 squares in a way that is easier for us to do than it is for black. And to that effect, I actually think it's very relevant that bringing the king to b4 could be part of white's plan. That's not going to be a thing with the queens on the board. And furthermore, if white is ultimately trying to play something like c4, c5, or a5 and eventually effectively win the a pawn, or like actually end up with 2 against 0 on the queen side, we're putting a lot of pieces on the queen side, and black has an unopposed light squared bishop pointing sort of towards the king. Now, it's not like with the queens on board, I'm immediately worried, oh no, I'm about to get checkmated. But it does mean if I put all of my forces towards the queen side, I have more counterplay to worry about. So my thought was here, if we're evaluating the anatomy of the advantage, that the extra pawn, the biggest hope for it is to be able to restrict the opponent's bishop, make a second weakness on the queen side, and then take a full pawn there. I think in that regard, it makes a lot of sense to have the queens off the board.
Let's see how it worked out. Okay, so rook d8. And then you played rook fd1.
Yeah, so if I think this was probably not best, actually. But
it's interesting. I actually looked at this game with a student this afternoon, and he suggested bishop e3.
Yeah, this makes a fair amount of sense to me as well. In general, I think trading one pair of rooks feels pretty reasonable for white. But yeah, it's probably not a huge difference one way or the other. But basically, my thought process here is that if all of the rooks remain on the board, it's going to be hard to accomplish b4, b5, and a5 and whatnot, because one of black's rooks can defend his queen side or pressure my c4 pawn, while the other one can cover the d file and stop my king from coming. And if we trade one pair of rooks, then it feels to me that black can either put the rook on the d file to try to stop my king from reaching a square like b4, or he can put his rook on a square where a move like a5 or c5 is not going to be as problematic, but he can't do both. So I don't think there should be a huge difference here, but you do want to, the one thing I would say is I really want to make sure that black cannot put the queenside pawns on white squares. I think if the pawns go to b5 and a6, the game's almost just drawn.
Okay, well, that's an important point. So we should throw this one out and say, so black played f6, but okay, right. Question to our viewers, what happens on b5? What should white play now? So this would seriously restrict white's queenside pawns.
It's not so
But
much about that. It's more like if black plays a6, he's just not going to have a pawn weakness for me to take. Like, I need to actually create a weakness to capture, and the pawn needs to be on a black square in order for that to happen. Also, just another thing is a good rule of thumb. In opposite bishop positions, if you're trying to win, you should be putting your pawns on the same color as your opponent's bishop. And if you're trying to draw, you should put your pawns on the same color as your own bishop. And here, like, playing b5 stops me from playing c4, and it gets black's pawn to the b5 square. And to that effect, this makes a lot of sense.
okay, so white to play. What should white play after b5? Operation Crossroads suggests bishop c3. Gisley, hi Gisley, how are you? Suggests a4.
Yeah.
What do you think about a4?
A4 I think is not great because when black takes it, you cannot take back on pain of e5. And as a result, black will play bishop d7 next. And if black equalizes material, there's certainly no reason for black to be worse.
Okay, so we reject
a4. Is
a4.
not a thing here.
What about
that's
bishop
probably why
c3?
that's probably why bishop e3 was actually a more accurate move on the previous move instead of rook d1, was that after b4, b5 a4, black could not play b takes a4 so easily.
Okay, we've got Scamato who suggests bishop takes a7.
Yeah, so this one I'm not so keen on. Like, let's say black takes on d1. Hang on just a second. I just need a second to open the door. I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. I think the problem with this is this. So it's a forcing variation and rook takes, and the problem is that the back rank mate is threatened and b2 is on prise. So basically this is fine. That's the problem with bishop a7. So yeah, that's not working. It's a little bit more subtle than that, folks. So yeah, Jakob Stentoft, bishop takes a7 doesn't work. Right, you're right, it doesn't work.
Sorry about that.
No problem. We've been through bishop takes a7. We've rejected it. We're going to move on because I can see our time is disappearing already. So no one has come up with the right move yet. White play. You're going to have to tell them, Sam. Put them out their misery.
Should be a bishop c5 if I recall.
I think in the book you mentioned bishop e3,
bishop
but
e3. It's probably the same thing, Rob.
Very similar, yeah.
It should be approximately the same thing. Yeah, so the point is here I'm not threatening to invade on the d file, and it's not that easy for black to stop because if he plays something like bishop b7, then I can potentially trade on d8 and take on a7, which is a pretty clean pawn. The more I'm actually looking at it now, rook d2 and bishop e4 exists, but like, for example, say black goes rook d2, and then if we can... Actually, this is a little tricky. I want to somehow be able to accomplish c4 and get like a structure with black's pawn on c4 and our bishop on c3, but actually not totally sure how that's happening here.
Does bishop e3 make...
Probably... No, because we're still going to a7. I mean, this is definitely like a better defensive attempt for black than what he played, which I think was very cooperative.
Right.
Yeah, here, I don't know. I mean, can play rook c1, bishop e4, and then bishop e3, but my feeling is the resulting opposite bishop ending should be drawn. Honestly, like, there might not have been a brilliant move there. I think that black's probably closer to holding the game than white is to winning, but b5 was a very important decision. He really needs to get his pawns off of white squares, or off of black squares and onto white squares. And to that effect, if I had played bishop e3 instead of rook fd1, then b5 would have been well met with a4. And the difference here being that after b5, a4, b takes a4, then I can go rook takes a4, and I don't have to worry about the pin. And here, while once black plays a6, they have sort of got the pawn onto a white square. I've also got a potential for protected passed pawn, and also black's bishop is not going to have a secure place to defend that pawn. Like, he can't like anchor the bishop on b5, for example, because I always have a pawn on c4 in some cases, and I definitely think white should have good winning chances here.
Okay, let's crack on with the game. So he played f6 and bishop e3.
Sure. Bishop b7. I
And
played f3, king f7, and here after king f7, I actually think I made a mistake. Uh, so I already discussed that I think White's best plan is to trade one pair of rooks because with one pair of rooks off the board, Black is going to have to make the choice between allowing keeping the rook on the d file, which cuts my king off from reaching a square like b4, or like stopping a4, a5 from directly winning a pawn. The issue here is I should have waited one more tempo. By starting with rook takes d8, and a4, as I played, in the game, my opponent played rook a8, which let me off the hook. But my plan here, obviously, is to potentially play a5, meet ba5 with bishop takes a7, and then I will be winning the a5 pawn, and
okay,
hopefully the game is over. But had he played rook c8 here, this would have been an issue. And I thought it was fine because I go c3, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'm not thrilled about having to put the pawn on this square, but I'm going to play a5 next, and it looks like I'm just going to win a pawn from you. And what I failed to appreciate was that after he goes bishop d5, a5, that he can actually just ignore me and play g5, that I'm not threatening to take this pawn because he will have rook b8, thanks in no small part to c3 being on the board. And here I think
okay,
black's pretty close to making a draw.
because of that.
Yeah, and so he will
Okay,
take the b2 pawn. And again, as I mentioned before, the plan should not be make a single lone pass pawn. That's not going to win the game. You want to be creating weaknesses and taking them, and this was not doing it. So I think that rook c8 would have, specifically with c3, bishop d5, would have pretty comfortably saved the game
hmm.
because he's forced my pawns onto dark squares and not allowed me to play b3 and c4 down the road. And
Certainly
then
not an easy defense to see because
yeah, you need to
you know
realize that this A5, it looks like a huge problem. You have to realize
exactly.
it is, in fact, not a huge problem.
Yeah, yeah, not easy to
So,
see when you're defending. But rook a8, obviously,
so this
great
was way
passive.
too passive.
Yeah.
But so then I was very happy that I could execute the plan I had in mind with King F2 and then C4 and B4 and all that.
Okay, so now the pawns are on their way.
Right.
So this is good. And yeah, rook c1. You
Yeah.
said in the book
Um,
that you like rook c1 very much.
yeah, so basically I was sort of thinking about what Black was trying to accomplish. And first of all, like I was thinking in some cases I can slam c5. Like if I got to play c5 next move, then it looks like in theory bc and a6 would be a defensive setup that Black could get behind, but here it just won't work because of bishop f8 check. So already c5 is a pretty big threat, and this kind of encourages Black to play bishop c6, and this allows me to play b5 and gain time doing it.
Okay, and this is what happens. So basically, you've
Right.
achieved what you want to achieve here.
Yeah.
This is
And
very
you sort
nice.
of see this position. If we had this exact same thing without rooks on the board, I think Black would make a pretty easy draw with a6. Actually, I'm not that convinced, but he would have very good drawing chances. But here, because he had to bring his king all the way over to the queen side to avoid some kind of a disaster, I'm actually able to provoke weaknesses pretty nicely. And I was really happy with this next move.
Okay, we'll throw this one out to our viewers. So white to play. What's next? It's about time they answered a question. So white to play. What's next? I should mention while we're at it that a few details. The book is about 260 pages long. It's good value. It's €32.99, €37.95 US dollars, probably about 30
Yeah.
quid.
Also, I sell signed copies of hardbacks from my website for 50 bucks. I only ship within the US. But yeah, people buy it there as well if they want
Okay,
the
well,
signature.
someone was asking about a signed copy right at the top actually. So
Yeah, just go to my website and it should be there under books. You can just buy it on my website. I only ship to the US. I mean, you can try to buy it from abroad, but I'll probably hit you up for more money for shipping. But the prices include US shipping.
there you go. Okay, so we've got Anwara 9965 with Bishop F8. Yeah,
Yeah. So
that's
I
a
really
lovely
like
move.
this move because we're considering what changes to the position will happen. And once the C file has been opened like this, it seems at least fairly likely that the rooks might come off the board. When that happens, we have to evaluate what the resulting opposite colored bishop endgame will look like. And if I can force black's pawns onto white squares before the opposite colored bishop endgame begins, I should have a pretty routine winning plan. So let's say he goes g6 as he played, bishop g7, and he played a6 in the game, which might be the best defensive try. But let's suppose instead he plays f5. And now I go bishop e5 and say rook c8, and we trade the rooks. The issue that black is facing is that my king just has a very clean route straight into g5 and f6, and this will overwork the defenses. Uh, so for example, yeah, here bishop d4 check, and then king g5, and I have no problem playing king f6, and he's going. First of all, yeah, this plan as well of just making a pass pawn on the h file is surely
Right.
good enough, but also I think king f6 just wins another pawn.
Yeah.
So by virtue of forcing his pawns onto dark squares, I made sure that the resulting opposite bishop endgame is actually going to be winning for white, when otherwise it probably wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's a very attractive move. By the way, just before we carry on with the game, I've got a question from Kevin. Hi, Kevin, a regular viewer. How has Sam gone from a 2600 GM to an elite player? Was it a
Just
result of the killer chess academy with Jacob? What was the method to get to elite level?
Well, certainly the Academy was founded in 2020, so it's not like, I mean, I made my peak performances in 2018 and 19, so it didn't even exist yet. But honestly, a lot of the kind of training we do at the Academy was stuff I was doing privately with Jakob before. And I was always working really hard at chess. I had faith in in the deep calculation training that this would eventually pay off. I think I surrounded myself with a lot of really helpful, positive people. I fostered very good working relationships with some of my peers, where we would prepare together, exchanging services for services with no money changing hands. And ultimately, I think that just because I started late, no one really thinks much of it when somebody makes 2600 when they're 18 and then makes 2700 when they're 21. But I made 2600 at age 22 and made 2700 at age 26. So it was only 4 years to make that happen, which is not, I think, an unusual amount of time. I just think people were not used to somebody that old making it. But again,
Mm,
I hadn't been playing chess that long. Like I had started late. I mean, I played
mm.
my first tournament right before I turned 11. So uh, yeah, I did a lot of the same kind of training we do at Killer Chess Training. I surrounded myself with positive people. I outworked everyone around me, and I had the fervent and unequivocal belief that my destiny was within my control. That starting late or not having the kind of support that the earlier prodigies did, or not being as talented as some others, would not be what holds me back, and that my fate as a chess player was in my own hands, and that constantly motivated me to train better every day.
Good stuff. That's a very clear answer. Um,
Yeah.
let's just finish the game.
Sure. So he played
Um,
A6 with the most resilient defensive attempt. But after I take on F6, we get this position where, again, I think absent the rooks, black should make a draw pretty easily. His king will easily should come back in time to stop the H pawn. And here, when we're thinking about plan for the pawn, even still, I don't think white necessarily wants to just like go mega past pawn. The plan strikes me as bring the king to g5 and take the g6 pawn.
yeah.
Uh, and it helps a lot that black's king is unable to join the defense in the meantime. So I started
Okay.
with rook c2 because I didn't want black to play rook a2 and keep my king tethered to the defense of the g2 pawn. And black was able to make the king cut off one rank closer, but still it's not close enough to really stop me from getting here. So after rook
Okay.
a5, I forced black's
Okay.
king
Wait
to
a second.
quad.
I want to ask this one because this is a nice move.
Yeah, hang on just a
Let's.
second. A lot of them think I got the rat trapper guy. Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. It is white to play. What did Sam do next? This is a. The technique was very nice at the end, I have to say.
So
So
one more
white to
try.
play.
There's no problems. Yeah. Lovely. Thanks so much. Thanks. You too. All right. Sorry, back for good this time.
Okay, we're good. So white to play. I'm still not getting an answer. Nope. We got f4. People are suggesting f4 to put the bishop on e5.
It's probably decent, but are you not worried about rook a2?
Uh, this is their suggestion. Listen, I'm not.
So let's see. Take, king g5, bishop g6, g4. You have to go for g4 now, but I think black's just getting back in time. King d7, and this sort of feels like a draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, black makes a draw easily.
Yeah.
Um,
Not best. Okay, so f4 we can rule out. Anyone else? Ah, we got A.K. Rubenstein and Evan Ripper
so
suggest.
first of all, after f4, the game's not over. White can play bishop b2, but
Ah,
for
true.
example, that does mean that if you were to like, so actually probably rook a2 is a mistake as a result, but it does mean that if you play bishop e5 next move with the hope to play king g5, that I will have rook a2 in response. So then you'd have to go
Right.
bishop b2, rook a5 back, and I don't think you're making progress.
Okay. Fair enough. We have Evan Ripper and A.K. Rubenstein who both suggested rook c2.
Yeah,
Excellent
I like this
stuff.
one a lot. We force black's king to occupy the fifth rank, which will allow me to reach g5. After king c5, I didn't feel the need to rush right away, so I started with f4 here. But yeah, soon enough, I ended up going to g5. And
And I'm going to throw one last question out there.
yeah,
So in this position, what should white play? Kevin says, I don't think Sam does streaming anymore. I remember the days when his cat was prominent in his streams.
okay, that is fake news. Cats are good dog food. I love my dog very much. Cats, no. I'm a dog person, so that was a bit of fake news. You're probably confusing me with someone else.
Okay, sounds like it to me. Yeah, and a couple of people are suggesting rook takes,
Yeah,
and
and
there we go.
Black's
Okay,
king is light years away from ever stopping the pawns, and the bishop on e5 being anchored as such means that Black can't hope to sacrifice the rook for the g pawn and trade the last pawn off. So yeah, he resigned here.
good stuff. Yeah. Okay, well, I really like that game because
Sure.
this is such a typical endgame.
Yeah. It felt like
And
there were a few important decisions. First, in terms of avoiding counterplay with queen takes d4. Then there was making the right changes to the pawn structure, and pieces, uh, which actually I guess I could have done better with rook c8 at some point because I allowed that rook c8 resource. And then finally, the changing the pawn structure with bishop f8 meant that the resulting opposite bishop endgame would be lost. So as a
yeah,
result, yeah, there's a lot of different elements at once to
yeah,
pull
yeah.
this one off.
No, very nice indeed. Actually, there's another game now. This one
Yeah.
was one where you weren't successful.
Yeah, so I should also point out that this is not just a book of my games. I think 9 of the games are mine, and like 20 some are someone else's, if I
Yeah,
recall.
yes, including some nice examples from Carlson.
Yeah,
One where he lost against Topalov, which I thought was very instructive.
yeah,
Actually, I wanted to show that, but I think we're running out of time. But this
sure.
game you played, so this was a Benko Gambit, and actually, I mean,
Yeah.
I think I've only ever really faced the Benko in Simmels.
No, it's a much more serious opening than people think. And nowadays, if you ever see a Benko Gambit up a tempo, like there's this new anti-Grunfeld C4, G6, H4. If Black just starts playing Benko Gambits there, it becomes much more serious. But
Yeah,
here,
but
I demonstrated a pretty serious misunderstanding at one critical moment, which definitely changed the result of the game.
well,
Uh,
that's the
it's an
moment
understanding.
that I thought was really instructive. I think if I think we're thinking of the
Yeah,
same moment. So, I mean, first of all,
probably.
let me put this in a bit of context. I mean, years ago, basically, White did stuff like this, and sometimes put a rook here and a queen here, and but A4 has basically taken over as the main line here.
It's definitely the best move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also point out this game, I was playing a substantially lower rated opponent. Like I was 2650 at the time, and I was playing with, not even a grandmaster, but he played quite a good game. So, but yeah, keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the position, and I thought this was very, very interesting. I love the way you explained this in the book, actually.
Yeah.
So it's White to play, and for me, the move that you played was, how can I put it, the most natural,
Right. It's
in
also
a
the easiest.
sense,
Yeah.
because well, I won't say anything more. Let's see what our viewers think. So it is White to play. What would you play next?
I think it was I made the move I made, I think, is really a serious misunderstanding.
Yeah, and that's what I found really interesting because I think for many people this would be a very natural move to make. But the
I
way
mean,
you
it
explained
was
it,
for me at the time. I don't have the timestamps, but I'm pretty sure I played it pretty quickly.
yeah.
Uh, so
So White to play. It's all gone very quiet. All right, our petification wants Rook HB1. Um, we've got Clay Jadon who wants Bishop C3. Rook A2,
Mhm.
Rook A3. Okay, we've got quite a variety of moves here.
Yeah.
Interesting. H4. Bravo. Bishop C3 again. Okay, we have a real variety.
Yeah.
Bishop C3 again. Bishop C3 again. So basically Bishop C3 is kind of coming to the top of the pole.
Yeah. So
Um,
this comes down to converting the extra pawn, and I think bishop c3 is a tremendous strategic mistake. So knight e8 is not a subtle move. Let's start with that. It's very obvious the guy wants knight c7 to undermine our knight on b5 that is clogging down the open b file, right? And once knight c7 happens, and then we have to take it, and queen takes c7, black's hoping for counterplay. So what we ultimately realize is we're probably going to have to put the pawn on b3. I can't really imagine the pawn staying on b2. And if we, let's say we play, well, we can just go with the game continuation. Bishop c3. This is what I played. Knight c7, knight takes c7, queen takes c7. And then let's say like take this position here. Let's go bishop takes g7. King takes g7. And let's go b3, rook b4. Basically here, I think it's effectively impossible for white to ever make any further progress. The pressure on the b3 pawn is incredibly annoying. c4 is always hanging over your head. You're never going to play b4. You're never going to play a5. Let's go like rook a b1 here, and then king g8. And if I told you you had an option to place a bishop on d2 here and give black his bishop back on g7, would you take it? At this point, it should become abundantly clear, abso-freaking-lutely. We get that bishop on d2. We kick this rook off of the annoying b4 square. We can then solidly play a5, which will keep our pawn protected and advanced. Then we can play b4, which will open the c file. With an open c file, we can potentially start trading major pieces, and then we have a passed pawn that will win us the game. So essentially here, in this position, a set of dark squared bishops would be enormously beneficial to be on the board for white. Not for black, for white. And that is not natural. People always look at this bishop on g7 and think that's the better bishop. It's just not true. If we had the dark squared bishop still on the board, so for example, I believe the best move is rook a b1, knight c7, and say we go take, queen takes c7 and b4, this game's over. Like he has to go queen a7, or otherwise I'm going to go b5 and a5, and then it's really over. But after queen a7, I play a5. Okay, I don't think he should allow b5, but after c takes b4, rook takes b4, this a pawn is going to count. And now importantly, I've opened lines on the queen side, which means I can go rook c1 and queen c7. which means black's going to have to make up his mind. Do I allow piece exchanges, or do I let, because if I don't allow piece exchanges, white's just going to invade the seventh rank. But if I do allow piece exchanges, he's about to go make a queen on me. And essentially my ability to open the queen side, get files, came down to my ability to play the moves a5 and b4, and that was exactly because the dark squared bishops remained on the board. The way the
Okay.
game played out without the dark squared bishops, very quickly black was just fine.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very, very interesting because, as many people are saying, that it feels natural to sort of trade off that dangerous bishop, and in some variations of the bank, of course, that's the star piece.
So, but the point is that's a dangerous bishop tactically. He's looking for threats against your b2 pawn. It's not a
Mm.
strategically dangerous bishop.
Yeah.
It's not a long-term dangerous bishop. And if you can play rook a b1 and b3, that bishop just shoots into nothingness.
Yep. But very, very interesting, and you know, I've never really studied these positions properly. I've never really played either side of this position. I thought that was a fascinating moment in the game, actually.
Yeah,
And
because if we go forward to like, I don't know, we just skip ahead to how the game went, like up to whatever, let's say 21 knight c4, rook b4. Like I just think
yeah,
black's totally fine here. Like b3, rook a, b8, rook e3 or whatever. There's just no plan to make any further progress. Uh, we can't open any lines to encourage trades of heavy pieces. I mean, I tried with f4, e5, but this is, but it's still not great. And I never could play a5 safely without that pawn becoming a liability. I could never play b4, kick the rook away. Like, I needed the dark squared bishops and didn't have them. And all of a sudden now, like, I was actually very lucky not to lose this game.
yeah. I mean, of course, once the f pawn advances, then white has to be extremely careful. So
Yeah, I mean, I was, I guess, frustrated by my lack of a plan and I took too many risks. And now I can very easily just lose this game.
yeah, yeah.
And I
So
was lucky at the end not to.
okay, let me just show the final moves of the game.
Sure.
So this happened.
Yeah, rook a6 was a blunder. He
Was
would
there
have just been
something
winning
strong
with
here?
almost anything else. Like, let's say maybe king g8, and then queen takes e5, d3 looks very convincing.
Okay, checks. No checks here. Is this possible?
Yeah, king e. Well, there's king f7 and then king e8, perhaps.
King. Oh, okay.
Oh no, but
Interesting.
there's queen b8, queen b5, and queen d3. Yeah, no, so I forget exactly how, but like the computer said black was winning here pretty easily after rook e6.
Okay, but we take your point that basically, white has to be careful here, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Okay, so
rook
the game
a5.
ended like this.
Yeah, and here he can't avoid the perpetual anymore.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
yeah, definitely interesting.
Yeah. Okay, we've got another question for you. Does
Sure.
Sam collect chess books? What's his favourite book, and what book does he consider the most instructive?
I don't know if you can see, but that's my bookshelf.
Okay.
So I've got some books. It's not like I have a massive collection, but and especially nowadays, I'm more and more sort of turning to the dark side and mostly doing ebooks. But I can definitely list some of the books that I thought had the biggest impact on me. Fundamental Chess Endings by Karsten Muller, I think, is excellent. Dvoretsky's Endgame Manual is excellent. Jakob's Ogard's entire Grandmaster preparation series is excellent, especially Calculation. That's the one that, and also Practical Chess Defense. I think it was the Calculation book and Practical Chess Defense in the first place that convinced me I want to work with this guy and hire him as my coach.
Mhm.
So those books had a very strong impact on me. I really liked, I think it was Positional Decision Making in Chess by Boris Gelfand. And obviously, I'd be kind of a clown if I didn't say my own books were good. But yeah,
Well, they certainly are. As I said, let's plug this, folks.
sure.
I've been reading this over the last couple of weeks and thoroughly enjoyed it and found it very, very instructive. And what I like about it, Sam, is that you're writing words, explanations. So of course there are important variations, but you explain it very clearly. So that's very
Yeah,
important.
and I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but one of the things I think that makes my books kind of unique is if we take Super Grandmaster 20 over 2700 peak, native English speaker, college educated, pick two out of the three. I think you can find a few people, but I believe I'm the only one with all three.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah.
Which means that I think I'm sort of uniquely qualified to write books in English about chess. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the ones who are English as first language, to my knowledge, are not. Most of them who all made it to 2700, most if not all of them, I think, just were homeschooled very young and didn't have like a normal education. We're doing like professional chess players from a very young age.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I did go to school, I mean, I'm not going to claim I'm some brilliant writer. I'm not, but I'm decent, I think. And
Absolutely. It's
having
very
been to
well
school
written.
helps.
Really good explanations, and yeah, I can warmly recommend it to everyone out there. And there's the link to New in Chess. You can also get it through Forward Chess and Quality Chess, of course. That's the publisher. And yeah, and also I got to say this is very important to me. The actual quality of production is excellent. You know, it's good
Yeah.
paper. It's a proper hardback. Yeah, it feels very comfortable. So
That's not something I can take credit for. Quality Chess did a fantastic job. I only do the chess part, but yeah,
they
they
do.
did a very good job producing the book.
But it is very important because you know the quality of production is not always great with chess books. So, but this is excellent. It really is very good.
Sure.
Listen, I'm gonna. We've been on for about an hour, so I want to wrap things up fairly certain. So let's just finish off with Sam. I mean, what are you playing next?
I actually don't know. I had a couple of tournaments I would have liked to have played that I was not invited to, which sort of sucks. I was honestly kind of lukewarm on how much I even wanted to keep playing after last year. I mean, basically, after I got COVID, I just became a completely different player. The
Oh,
brain fog never went away, and my
I
ratings
did.
just dropped like crazy. And so
I
I
didn't
was sort
realize.
of
When did you have COVID?
May 2022. I mean, if you just look at the rating graph from May 2022, it's
Okay.
very obvious that's when it happens. But the World Cup sort of reinvigorated me and made me think I still have a little bit of fight left. You know, I won the American Continental to qualify, and I came darn close to qualifying for the candidates. I mean, I had this crazy close match with Estepenko that I lost in the quarterfinal. And if I had won that match, then I have actually two chances of playing the candidates because even if I lose to Wei in the semis, third, I still have the match for third. So, you know, had I beaten Estepenko in that match, which I definitely, I mean, in tiebreaks, he was the better player that day. But I do think it certainly could have gone either way. It wasn't like a one-way match or anything. I think I'm probably over 50% to make it to the candidates at that point. So that sort of reinvigorated me a bit, and I'm looking for more tournaments to play. There's some events I'm hoping to hear back from, but the first ones that I had in mind politely declined my participation. It's also just tough when you're getting older. I don't know if you followed Tata Steel, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If I played Tata Steel, by any objective stretch, I'm not really an old man, but not only would I be the oldest player in the A group there, I would be the oldest by quite a bit. I think it would just be me and then a pretty like a few year drop off to Anish and then another pretty serious drop off. Like
Yeah.
almost all the people would be like 10 years plus younger than me. So organizers want young players.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong with that. I don't see that as discrimination. It is discrimination that I benefited from when I was younger and now I'm suffering from as I'm older. You know, it's not like in different phases in your life, it's going to treat you
Mm.
differently. But yeah, it's hard to get invited to tournaments. There's a few that I'm waiting to hear back from that I'd really like to play. But yeah, we'll
Mm.
see.
Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting thought. That's another perspective because yeah, you know, obviously there's a lot of attention on the young players, and
Yeah, and
yeah,
I honestly I don't take issue with that. Like
yeah,
if you discriminate someone against someone, say like based on their race or their gender or something that's just never going to change,
Mm.
that's horrible. But if you discriminate based on age, that means everybody at some point is going to be favored and everybody at some point is going to be disfavored and
Mm.
everybody goes through life
Yeah,
fairly. And I do think that we should be giving more opportunities to younger players in general.
Mm.
And I wasn't complaining when I was young and getting, let's say, more opportunities than I perhaps deserved if we were just talking strictly about ratings. And I'm not going to complain now when the opposite is true. It's just going
Yeah.
through life.
Okay. Well, that's well rationalized. Okay. Let's finish up. That's what we've been talking about. Converting an Extra Pawn in Chess by Sam Shankland.
Yeah.
I warmly recommend it. You can see it. You've got the link to the book there. You can get it directly from New in Chess, Quality Chess, and Forward Chess. And thanks very much, Sam, for joining us. That's great.
Oh, my pleasure. This was great.